Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fidinam Podcast Unlocking Vietnam, the podcast aimed at sharing the experiences of foreign companies and investors in doing business in Vietnam. I'm Francesca Severoni from Fidinam Vietnam, a Swiss business and tax consulting firm that supports foreign companies and investors in running the business in these dynamic markets. In the first two episodes, we explored Vietnam as an investment destination, and also we looked at how to run a business in Vietnam. Today, we are going to explore Vietnam as a manufacturing hub. And to do that, I invited two very important representatives of the Swiss community. We do have, on one side, Luat Nguyen, Managing Director of CICOR Vietnam. Welcome, Luat. And we do have Jacobo Perez Polaino, General Manager of SIKA Vietnam. Thank you both for being here. I would like to straightforward ask you to quickly introduce yourself and also your activity in Vietnam. Let's start by Luat from Secor.
All right. Thank you so much, Francesca, to invite me. It's my pleasure to be here with you and to share my experience. My name is Luat Nguyen. I'm almost German, so I'm used to live in Germany almost 35 years and just came back to Vietnam the last June 2022, and now I'm almost 18 months here in Vietnam. Lead the one of Swiss company in Vietnam. We are focusing on electronic manufacturing service, PCBA, assembly, injection molding, etc.
Thank you very much. And what about Jacobo and Sika?
Well, I'm Jacobo Perez. I'm a Spanish national, being in Southeast Asia now for 11 years and in Vietnam for the last 3.5. In SIKA, it's a global manufacturer company focusing in the construction market for also adhesive and parts for automotive segments. We have been in Vietnam since 1993. And we have now 420 people in 3 different manufacturing facilities, in Dong Nai, in Binh Duong, and in Bac Ninh. Our main customers are main contractor into the civil construction market, but also we have a very important part of our business into the ready-mix concrete, as well as a very diverse portfolio of partners into the distribution segment that enable us to be very close to the market throughout the geography of Vietnam. SIKA was pioneering the construction industry coming to Vietnam as a foreign direct investment in 1993, setting up the first manufacturing in nearby Ho Chi Minh in 1997, followed by the second factory in Bac Ninh in 2012. The third factory in Binh Duong has come as a result of the acquisition of Master Builder Construction Solutions, that is ex-BASF, and that has been closing very recently in 2023.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to have you both here because you can definitely bring different angles and perspectives of the same industry, allowing us also to better understand the entire context. So thank you very much. Now, before starting our discussion, I would like to mention some of the facts and figures that characterize the manufacturing industry in Vietnam at the moment. As already mentioned in the first 2 episodes, Vietnam is in a very central position, both for the Asian countries, but also worldwide. Also, Vietnam is benefiting a lot from the competitive production costs, especially in comparison with the neighbor countries. Also, Vietnam has a lot of strong and favorable economic policies, and it is very active in the global agreements, which actually lead to be also very well connected and integrated in the global supply chains. So all these dynamics elements present a great opportunity for foreign investors that are able to capitalize on the region's growth potential, especially for the manufacturing industry. To confirm this importance of the manufacturing industry in Vietnam, we can mention the presence of big companies like Secor, SIKA, but also others like Google, Samsung, Lego, and many, many others that decided to come and establish a presence in Vietnam. Also, to give you some numbers, in 2023, 60% or more than 60% of the total FDI are manufacturing projects. Last year, among the world's leading markets, Vietnam ranked 23rd globally and first in Southeast Asia. And if we look back at the last 5 years, the manufacturing sector in Vietnam registered a compound annual growth rate of 18%. So in a nutshell, the manufacturing industry in Vietnam is gaining attention from global investors. And the government, in order to keep this attention for global companies, is trying to promote innovative solutions in sustainability, in digitalization. So in this concern, I would like to ask you, Jacobo, from SIKA perspective, from your experience, what are the major trends that you see that are very present in the manufacturing sector at the moment?
Well, since Vietnam adhered to COP25, there has been a growing momentum in terms of sustainability, to the extent that it's very difficult to join any conversation now in which sustainability is not one of the top 5 topics. It's very clear that Vietnam would like to position themselves as a leading country in sustainability in Southeast Asia. Having said that, for the private sector, we do see that there are more need of a better legal framework that establish the grounds in order to progress and take the advantage on sustainability topics. And beside that, we do see that there is an internal demand for better quality products. The market is getting more sophisticated. Customers now request higher quality solution, long-lasting solution, which is definitely a very good thing for foreign companies that decide to come to Vietnam, because we can really put in practice the innovations and the research and development that we can bring for our head countries, and also that we can do tailor-made from Vietnam.
Very interesting. And what about Secor? Do you agree with that, or do you have a different perspective?
I really fully agree. The Vietnamese government is quite very dynamic and bold entrepreneurs, and for the foreign investment as well. So they support us on the term of the legal regulation, the ESG sustainability, as Jacobo said before. But last but not least is some of the negative things like infrastructure still working on that.
Perfect. Indeed, you've mentioned quite a few points that I would like also to kind of explore a little bit more. And indeed, if we go a little bit more onto technical aspects, of course, there are many aspects to consider, but just to mention a few, when deciding where to establish and to set up the factory, in Vietnam or overseas, free trade agreements are very important to look at. Indeed, free trade agreements are very important because they kind of reduce or even eliminate the barriers that can be between countries. For example, they can reduce or eliminate imports and export tariffs, or they can also add and ensure some kind of FDI, for indirect investment protection mechanism that, of course, attract also companies to come and expand their business. And everything can bring ultimately to the access to new markets. So free trade agreements are very important. Indeed, over the years, with the increase of free trade agreements, many companies decided to expand their business in Vietnam. And if you look back and we think about the trade tension between US and China, since 2018, many companies from China started to expand part of their sourcing operation or the entire sourcing operation to Vietnam. And this was very helpful for them because they could benefit from the certificate of origin made in Vietnam. Thus, they could benefit from the free trade agreements and from the favorable tariff that come with them. And ultimately, being able to take advantage of the presence in Vietnam, this manufacturing that decided to move out of China to Vietnam could also have the access to countries like the US, where otherwise it would have not been possible to have access to. So in general terms, when deciding which country to set up the company and the factory, it is very important to analyze the overall situation. the business model, where the clients are located, also where the suppliers are located, jointly with the free trade agreements. Now, another crucial aspect is the location. So when decided to come to Vietnam and set up a company and a factory in Vietnam, industrial parks play a crucial role. These industrial parks are government designated areas for the industrial production and give a lot of advantages to companies. For example, they give tax incentives and also import duties exemptions, beneficial land rent policies, and also accelerated depreciation. On top of these advantages, others benefits are the efficient infrastructure. Indeed, most of these industrial parks are located near to the major key transportation routes, which make the logistic more easy. And also another advantage is the efficient and integrated ecosystem, because potentially you can have the suppliers, the manufacturers, and also the service provider all together or nearby. And this proximity of stakeholders, of course, make the work to be done efficient and effective. Now, I would like to ask you, Jacobo, thinking about industrial parks, which kind of advice would you give to foreign investors that are interested in choosing the right location in Vietnam where to set up the company?
Well, I think that is not a universal answer, but it came to my mind three main reasons that I will like to invite people to think about. First one is about business model. In order for a company to decide which location is best for them, they need to figure out whether the production facility is going to be catered for export or more towards a domestic market. That also connects very well with where is the customer base. We know that in Vietnam, for example, customer behaviors are different in the north and the south. So even inside the domestic market, then we need to make decisions based on which product or which kind of customer base we are focusing on. The second one will be infrastructure. And this is primarily based on which type of products and what are your supply chain base and where are your customers and also your suppliers coming from. As you mentioned, it's very important to understand how is going to be your route to bring products to your factory. Now, as you know, and we have analyzed in many cases, the case of, for example, iPhone is taking off for the reason that the port development there is moving very fast and it's extremely well connected to North Asia as well as with the rest of the world. So therefore, there are many companies setting up their very nice facilities because of the sourcing of raw material as well as fantastic infrastructure in transportation and many other tax benefits, as you mentioned. The last point I would probably mention is about skilled labor. In Vietnam, you don't have skilled labor for every segment in every location. So it's important that you figure out which kind of production you want to have and what skilled labor are you going to need. And then surely Vietnam can provide with excellent labor, but you need to understand where is that located and how it is developing and how is the rest of the supplier and competitor base looking around. Those are, for me, not all, but three, I would say, important elements that I would consider if I would need to set up a new manufacturing facility in Vietnam.
Thank you very much. Luat, what about you? Do you have another perspective or you kind of agree with Jacobo?
As you know that SIKOR Group or SIKOR Vietnam, we are almost 24 years in Vietnam. So therefore, the question to install or set up the factory in Vietnam is almost done. But first of all, I agree that it depends on the business model, export, import, domestic market, or you want to export it in entire of Asia or back to Europe or global. So from my point of view, we are electronic manufacturer. So we prefer in the south of Vietnam because there are a lot of very skilled, well English speaking engineer and laborers force. so that we can jump into this labor market very quickly and send them back to Switzerland, training them 3 or 6 months, and get them back to Vietnam so that we have the same almost level like in Switzerland, and to participate on this low cost level. Sure, that's another reason as well, but that is the key of the elements which you decided to invest in Vietnam or to set up a factory or not.
Thank you very much. I think the key message is definitely depends on the business model. So you have to decide the location based on what your needs are. For example, you mentioned both of you the exports needs. And in this regard, I would like to build on that by asking you, because at SIKOR, exporting is also an important activity that you have to do. So when it comes to industrial parks and when it comes to kind of do the work for all the activities for exporting, how industrial parks can help you and support you with all the administrative and logistics tasks?
Thank you for the good question, Francesca. Sure that because our business model focusing on the exporting, so that means that we have to be on the industrial park because this is cluster have everything. That is all the one of important arguments why we choose Vietnam Singapore Industrial Park in Bình Dương, because we get all kind of service which I mentioned you before.
Perfect. Thank you very much for sharing a lot of insights on the industrial parks. Now, we would like to maybe understand a little bit about the differences that we can find also in other countries. Of course, the concept of industrial park is not unique to Vietnam, but for sure it is an added value when coming here and it works. But since Jacobo, you already had also experiences in other Southeast Asian countries like Indonesia and Cambodia, and maybe you have also other indirect experiences from other countries. Could you share with us what are the main differences in doing business in Vietnam compared to the other countries, and why maybe Vietnam could be the preferred option to set up the factory?
I think coming to manufacturing facilities, reflecting back of why Vietnam could be a preferred destination, there are 3 main elements coming to my mind. First of all is like how strong the government has revealed and pushed to name manufacturing as one of the key pillars for Vietnam development, economic development in the years to come. That's something that is not that easy to find in all countries around the region, as well as with the rest of the world, and make it this an ideal location for a company that is looking either to tap into the domestic market, growing very fast, with a population of nearly 100 million people, or to export to Americas, Asia, or even to Europe. And also, to me, further building on what Luat said, the quality of industrial park in Vietnam, not all of them, but some of them is really, really high. VSIP is an example of, we have a factory, SIKA, in Bac Ninh, VSIP, and I have to say it's really a fantastic industrial park. Coming to infrastructure, coming to support, coming to discussion with them is really makes your life a lot easier as a manufacturer, having this kind of support that is also not present in all the rest of the geographies in Asia. Having said that, I also would like to mention that unfortunately, I do see that the last few years, the development of infrastructure in Vietnam, and here I bring also along power generation, as Luat mentioned, in the north of Vietnam, also the highways that are getting a little bit slowed down, metro construction in Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City are not to the level that we observe in some other neighbors. And long term, it could be an obstacle, a roadblock to attract investors in Vietnam. And also mentioned by Luat is bureaucracy. Well, I think that everyone is aware that bureaucracy is complex in Vietnam. And I think we all navigate through that at the moment. But having Vietnam the clear targets of developing as a manufacturing hub in the region and worldwide they really should keep moving and reducing and simplifying bureaucracy to keep attracting and justifying this fantastic location for many potential FDI companies that they will be happy to come to Vietnam.
Thank you very much. Indeed, there are also challenges. Actually, in the first episodes, we had a look at the opportunities and challenges that Vietnam has as an investment destination. So I invite you also to listen to this episode. Thank you very much. Maybe now to wrap up your key messages that you would like to give to, as I said, potential new investors in Vietnam. What would this key message be?
I think we share already a lot of good inputs, but something that I didn't mention so far is please do not rush. I think Vietnam is a fantastic destination, but you need to understand how to go about it. Is domestic market, is export, how it's going to be your value chain, as Luat said, how it's going to be your leadership, your talent network, how you're going to be levered on Vietnam human capital. That's something that is very, very important. And also, please invite everyone who wish to do investment in Vietnam to take time, come to the country, enjoy the country because it's a beautiful country, but also try to understand local customs, very important, like everywhere, but particularly in Vietnam, to respect local custom and understand thought process and business process of Vietnamese citizens. I think this is a must. You cannot get that if you don't come here and stay a reasonable amount of time to figure out how you want to do it here.
Yeah, and understanding the country is definitely key. Thank you very much. And what about Luat, your key messages?
Test it, tried it, feel it, then you go be like me and like Jacobo. We are in love in Vietnam.
Thank you very much to both of you. It has been very, very interesting. Actually, as I mentioned before, having two different angles, two different perspectives of the same industry provide us valuable information to kind of understand the manufacturing sector in Vietnam better and to get a big picture. So again, thank you very much. And thank you all for listening. I hope you could enjoy the podcast and get the information you wish to receive. In the description, you will find the contact details. At Fidinam, we would be very glad to set up a call to answer to your questions. Also, in the description, you will find the link to download our business guide together with some articles we wrote on manufacturing and industrial parks. In the next episodes, my colleague will talk about consumption industry with a focus on import activities. So stay tuned. And until then, take care.